So the Project Factory, we like to think of ourselves as a digital production company rather than an agency. We're based in Shoreditch in London. We have a technical office in Sydney. We set up a UK arm about 2 years ago, headed up by Kirsty Hunter. And I joined the Project Factory. I've been there for about a year already and been involved in some really, really exciting projects that all kind of show different ways of telling stories on various platforms. So a little bit about me, excuse the ugly mug. I'm kind of head up development of the Project Factory. I also kind of work as senior producer on a lot of our projects. I've been in the TV industry, stroke digital industry for about 15 years, across mostly sports to begin with, but also factual and entertainment. Worked a lot with the BBC on a lot of their red button interaction services for Wimbledon, their live events, and the British Open, the Olympics. Before I joined the Project Factory, I worked for Lowcog, producing all of their big screen video content for the Olympics and Paralympics that appeared on around all of the venues. And a lot of that content was on the BBC website and also on the Lowcog app. So the Project Factory, most of our work is with TV broadcasters. We do some work for brands, but this is our main kind of area of focus. So we work with Film 4, ITV, Sky, Channel 4, BBC, PBS, recently BFI. And at the moment, we're actually working on a consultancy basis with Sony Television across their 4 production companies, developing digital ideas for all of their programming. So what I wanted to really talk about today was something that I'm quite passionate about in terms of telling stories. And I think one of the important things when you tell a story is to make people not just engage or give them a way in which they can, a reason to tweet about something or post something on Facebook, but really try and make them feel like they're part of the story, kind of embed them in the story. So there's about 3 or 4, 3 kind of brief case studies that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to go into detail on 2 more that we've been involved with. So in terms of what the Project Factory do, what we specialised in, well, we don't specialise in anything in particular. We produce social campaigns, social media campaigns, we produce apps, we produce games, and obviously websites, mostly companion pieces for TV, but obviously, as Matt mentioned, recently we've done some work with Ken Loach on his recent film. So we do work across the board. Now we also have skills at the Project Factory which enable us to produce broadcast quality TV. Obviously I'm from a TV background and Kirsty, the MD, is also from a TV background. So we're actually able to take on some smaller projects which just require online video. So first of all, just 3 short kind of bursts of ideas in which we've used different platforms online to tell stories. The first one was a project we did for Sky Atlantic called The British, which was this big, huge, gripping kind of drama looking at the historical events of Britain right from across 2,000 years, from the Roman Empire all the way through to the coronation of Elizabeth II. Well, we came up with an idea which used Twitter called Tweeting History, whereby we took 4 different stories across history, and people would subscribe to the Twitter handle, The British on Sky, and you would have those events told through individual tweets that came up as notifications at exactly the same time on that particular day as it happened X amount of years ago. So this kind of incorporated real archive with a short kind of timeline, if you like, of events. So if it was the Great Fire of London, you would get a tweet at 2:15 saying the fire had broken out at Pudding Lane, and then we would kind of follow that story all the way along throughout a day. If it was the Blitz, it would be when the planes were first spotted over the Atlantic. So just a very, very simple way in which people can engage with the story, but not get, in this way, not kind of get too involved. But it was a nice technique, and it's something that we kind of used again. Most recently, one of the things we did recently, which was really exciting, was a BBC project, which was a prototype app for BBC Africa, which is one that I was kind of particularly involved with. As I say, it's a prototype app. What we wanted to do is take the series of BBC Africa and make people feel like they're kind of on the ground, experiencing the natural circle of life, which we always see in these natural history programs. So what we did is we took linear video, we curved it, and we created a composite 360 video using your iPad as the controller. So you would dive down onto ground level. Through your iPad, you would see a high-definition video of the savannah during kind of normal conditions, and then you would move the iPad to the right, and you would swipe over to exactly the same kind of scene, and you would see it during drought, and then move it all the way around again, and you would see the rains return back to life being restored. So it was quite an immersive experience. Now these were videos that you could also zoom in on. So you could actually zoom in really close on the hairs of a lion or the lizards jumping around or the wildebeest. And we also embedded hotspots within the frame where you could actually access behind the scenes content. You could look at galleries, panoramic images, and we obviously linked up the BBC iPlayer and Wildlife Finder. So this was an incredibly visual, immersive way of actually putting people right down at ground level and experiencing it kind of firsthand. Now, a lot of the video we featured in here had David Attenborough's commentary on, but one of the things that we found absolutely amazing was when you used the app with headphones and you took off, you deselected the Attenborough commentary and you just had these amazing natural sound effects. It really was an incredible experience. One of the things we pride ourselves at Project Factory is obviously our work we do with Downton Abbey. We do all of the social media for Downton Abbey, which we started at the beginning of Series 2. Obviously, it's been hugely successful. We've managed to boost the Facebook likes up to 1.3 million plus now. The Downton Abbey, again, we've boosted. We've also introduced a new account with Twitter. We also do Pinterest and Tumblr. Now, obviously, Downton has an established audience. And one of the things that gets the most amount of likes and hits on Facebook is when we actually just use picture posts, which is taking an image of Maggie Smith, for example, and a quote, and before you know it, you've got 1.3 million likes and God knows how many hundreds of people talking about it. Now that's because there's obviously an established audience there and people have a relationship with these characters. But one thing we did, which was actually trying to give people the idea that they were involved in the storyline, was a Facebook app which is called Free Bates. As we all know, if you watched the series, you'll know the episode, the storyline last year when John Bates was rightly or wrongly jailed. So what we did in the Facebook app, we created this typewriter interface where people could actually type a letter to Bates in jail and actually sign a petition to help free Bates. Which was hugely popular, and if you typed out a letter, you would get a letter back in response with your name. It's a really simple idea, but it was a very kind of quick hit way of making people engaging with the storyline. I mean, Matt touched on this earlier, and I think some of the most successful ways of telling stories is when people can literally dive into something, engage, and kind of dive out, rather than people getting completely engulfed and not really knowing how long they have to be interacting. So this is really the first kind of case study I'd like to talk about. This was actually done before I arrived at the Project Factory, but I think is a really good example of how people completely engage with a storyline. So over in Holland, there is a very well-known soap opera that no one obviously will know about here, which is called GTST, Good Times, Bad Times, which is produced by Endemol and goes out on RTL 4. Now, this is effectively the EastEnders. It's a soap opera. It's like the EastEnders of Holland. Now, the issue they have is they have a summer break. So they are always looking for a way to keep the audience, retain that audience over the summer break. They always finish each series with a cliffhanger. So we produced an app which was based on a bespoke platform that was created at the Project Factory by our office in Sydney called Episodic, and also using a technology called Gamma. And the idea here was that this particular series finished with a character being loosely introduced, a mysterious character that appeared in the story, but no one really knew who he was, Tim. And hence the app V is Tim, Who is Tim. So across the whole summer break when this app launched, it was really there to engage people and try and get them to find out who this character was, how he connected to the other characters. And we were using various kind of games, navigational devices, accessing his notebook. You would slowly kind of reveal who he was and there were various rewards when the series came back for those people who actually took part in the game. And there's a video.
How can fan engagement increase your audience share by 25%? Consumer engagement is the future of broadcasting. In order to strengthen consumer engagement, it is key to extend and deepen the broadcast experience. Earlier this year, RTL Nederland, together with Endemol and the Project Factory, launched GTST Who is Tim? GTST is a very successful daily soap series in the Netherlands. Each season ends with a dramatic cliffhanger episode, after which GTST fans anxiously wait for the new season to start. GTST Who is Tim is a groundbreaking new transmedia concept aimed at bridging the 9-week summer break. It centers on a mysterious stranger called Tim, whose appearance in the series has raised many questions. Why is this young man secretly following the main characters, and what is it he's writing in that notebook of his? The hype surrounding Tim's identity reached its climax when the cliffhanger episode aired.
Ik vertel ze wie ik ben als ik daar klaar voor ben. En dan verandert alles.
After the cliffhanger episode, the GTST Who is Tim app could be downloaded. The app gave fans access to Tim's notebook and provided clues about his mission. Content available through the app included extra videos, Tim's personal notes, newspaper clippings and more. Parts of Tim's notebook were locked. Fans had to solve puzzles and play map games to unlock content. Code words to unlock content were also given away in the offline world. On television, for instance, on RTL Boulevard, a daily entertainment show.
Als je dat invoert, kan je verder en dan kun je dus de hele zomer lang volgen wat er allemaal gebeurt bij GTST.
Through ads in printed newspapers, on billboards across the country, and even by aerial advertising. One of the actors actually piloted the plane. Fans were kept updated via the popular GTST website and through GTST's Facebook and Twitter pages. They could also obtain extra leads and insights by connecting to Tim directly. Right from the start, the level of engagement was spectacular. The GTST Who is Tim app rapidly climbed to #1 position on the App Store charts, overtaking the new free release of Angry Birds. The app even reached top 8 position worldwide. Speculations about Tim's identity were hotly debated on Facebook, Twitter and Wikipedia. Tim gained a fast-growing fanbase. Fans helped each other solve the mystery by creating walkthrough sites and instructional videos. GTST Who is Tim took its next step into the real world when dedicated app players went searching for Tim's belongings.
Ik dacht, hij zou komen ook gewoon.
The lucky player who found Tim's notebook won a ticket to the GTST event as well as a meet and greet with Tim. All players were rewarded with the opportunity to discover the truth about Tim before anyone else. They could watch episode 1 of the new season a full week before it aired on TV.
Ik ben je zoon.
The overall winner joined the GTST cast in South Africa to appear as an extra in the series. Results: 1 out of 6 viewers downloaded the app. Market analysis proves that GTST Who is Tim successfully bridged the summer break and resulted in significantly more engagement. At the start of the new season, the TV audience share showed a 25% increase. Consumer engagement, the future of broadcasting.
So obviously that's quite an intense way in which you engage people with a storyline, but it works perfectly for this particular soap opera in the fact there is this break that they do need to kind of keep people engaged, and this is the perfect way to do it. So this is just some of the screenshots, some examples of what you saw on the app. So there'd be various games where you had to connect character to find out who was related to who. The notebook, you were able to navigate yourself away around a map and picking up various assets. You were able to access a Spotify account and find out more about Tim in terms of his hobbies and pastimes, and obviously there was a leaderboard where people could compare how they were faring against friends. And the amazing thing about this was that actually one of the games on here was about how to actually unlock a particular item which required guessing a combination code. And so popular was it that people actually crowdsourced to try and work out what that code was, and it was even featured on a TV morning show. As we just kind of saw there, it's hugely popular, and I think the big kind of takeaway on this is the 25% increase when the series returned, but more importantly, that 25% increase was maintained, so it wasn't like a spike that went away. And surprisingly enough, we've done one again for the new series. This time, obviously, a different storyline based on a different kind of cliffhanger. This was only released about 4 or 5 weeks ago. even more successful than the first app, #1 in the App Store in under 24 hours. And the series has just returned, and that audience share has risen again. Those figures haven't officially been released, but again, it's kind of proved that how telling a story through gaming on an app can not only engage people, give them rewards, but also increase the TV audience and hopefully increase revenue for the broadcaster. So here we are, here it is just at the top of the App Store and the first version as well. The second kind of case study I'd like to talk about, which was one that I was heavily involved in and was absolutely fantastic experience, was The Spirit of 45. This was obviously Ken Loach's documentary that was released earlier in the year, which told the story of the Labour government coming into power in 1945 and the industrialisation and nationalisation of Britain all the way through to the Thatcher years and to where we are today. So it was like a social commentary which included rich archive and contributors who were actually people who lived through these years and kind of economic analysis and historians. What was quite unique about this project is there were quite a lot of players involved. So this was for Film 4, BFI, Fly Film and 16 Film were the film's producers. Syndicate were the designers of the website, and Dogwoof were the distributor. So as I say, this was a website, and there were kind of two aims for this. Ken Loach already obviously has his established audience, so we had to make sure that the historical content and the story that we were telling in the documentary we were able to retell online for that audience. And the way in which we did that was create these beautiful, elegant timelines. So we split up the film into different themes such as health, infrastructure, education, welfare. And we would source statistics from 50 different resources, the National Census, the National School of Economics, the British Library, various different books and publications. And we created various infographics, kind of timeline facts. You're able to scroll along right from 1945 to present. You could share out any of these facts. And it was a really beautiful, elegant way of people kind of retelling the story. But the bigger challenge was actually to how do we engage with a younger audience and to make this content slightly more accessible. And again, we didn't want to kind of get people involved so they had to engage for a long period of time. We were looking for something that was quite a quick hit. So we came up with this questionnaire that was called My 45. The idea here was that we wanted to give people an idea of what their life would have been like if they were around in 1945. Again, using all of the data that we were able to find from the National Archive. We worked very closely with a data journalist, Michael Blaston, to help kind of formulate how we came to the questions and how we were able to use the results. So I'll just kind of walk you through the kind of questions that you were asked. So it would be your name, your age, your marital status, whether you went to university, if you went to university, when did you go, whether you're employed, if you are employed, what job sector you're working in, how much you earn, your household situation, and all of this information produced this end result. So we were able to kind of give people a very, very shareable asset. So we were able to do all kinds of things. We made it kind of quite fun. So if my name is Rob and I was number 10 in the top 100 names of 2012, we would look to see who was in that same position back in 1945. So we're able to give people an identity. That's just kind of quite a fun, gimmicky idea. But we would actually then be able to tell them, based on what job sector you're in now, what's most likely the job sector you will be working in then. We were able to tell them what their access to healthcare would be like, how many years they would be expected to live from that point, cost of healthcare, their housing situation. And obviously all this information isn't 100% accurate. We can never possibly give an accurate reading of what your life will be like. But this was very, very popular, and as I say, 12,500 people actually took part in My 45 and shared it out. But the interesting thing about this is that some people actually took this My 45 questionnaire before they went to see the film. And in doing so, it gave them a completely different take on the film before they went in, which we just thought was a kind of really interesting way in which we're actually shaping people's opinion and how they see the documentary. Now, this ended up, the film itself, obviously the idea of all of this was to put bums on seats. And we succeeded in doing that. So the run of the film was extended by 2 to 3 weeks. There was a live cinecast we did across, I think, up to 50 cinemas across the UK with a Q&A with Ken Loach and a panel, which was hugely successful. And for Dogwoof, the film's distributors, it was their biggest, most successful independent release. And glad to say that it's already up for 2 awards. And that's about it.